we never had to worry about that. So it's an expedient again. So what happened is that they not really cultivating a precept of not touching the trees and harming the trees. There's a reason for that. Because there were once some monks who were disciples of the Buddha. When the Buddha accepted his disciples. And they had a temple, and then a monk decided to trim the trees, just to trim the trees because it looks ugly. It looks unkempt. So the monk chopped up a branch, and it turns out that when he chopped it off, there's a spirit family that lives on that tree. And the kid spirit, the child, the son of the spirit, was playing, hanging on by that branch. He was playing, and the monk didn't know. Spirits are the yin world, so you can't see them. So he was playing on that branch, and when the monk chopped it off, the boy fell down to the tree and hurt himself. And of course, the spirit father was so angry at the monk. He thought of killing the monk, or at least maiming him. And then he was about to do that, and he had second thoughts, and then he came and complained to the Buddha. And the Buddha said, okay, you're right, you shouldn't have done that, but he didn't know. So that's why the precept was created. You see, the precepts are created for our protection. Okay? So, for example, women have more precepts, it's more, you have much better protection than the monks in that sense. Okay? So that's why the precept was created. And so typically, like at the seated 10,000 Buddhas, before we trim the trees, we leave a piece of paper saying we declaring that we are about to trim the trees or the bushes. And if you have any objection, please let us know. And usually that's what we do, typically.
Is it just the person who cuts on the tree, or is it everybody involved?
No, the monk or the nun, the level person who trim the trees.
Who trims the tree is the one who takes the full
who break the precept.
brunt of the spirit,
right?
Of the precept.
Right.
Okay.
So in the typical, like at the seated 10,000 Buddhas, usually the level people do not touch the vegetation. It's the lay people who deal with that. Mm. Okay. That's typically happens, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Okay. Now, it's a kind of funny story about a woman destroying her face because it's kind of drastic of a thing. That's why having good looks is not necessarily a blessing. It's not necessarily a good thing. But if she asked for advice, it wouldn't have happened. She wouldn't have to destroy her face. Okay, but that's Mahayana is wide open. Yes, there's so many ways to cultivate that. For a woman who has wealth, okay, who has respect, who has cultivation, okay, who has a teacher, and who has good looks, to decide to do away with the good looks is just a tremendous move, you know.
But is it considered as in the Christian world, a sin to mutilate your body, like destroying your look or something like that? No?
No.
Nothing in Buddhism?
No, not at all. It's not compassionate in the sense that you're not compassionate to yourself.
Yeah, you're hurting your body.
Yeah, but that's because, well, on the other hand, she's then decided to do that because then she would put the mind of those men at ease.
But it's their problem, not hers.
Right. You see, that's the wrong thing. That's the wrong thing. When you cultivate, you look at yourself. Okay? Whatever other people do around you is their problem, not yours. Okay,
That's their
so that's why she was wrong in that sense. Well, on the other hand, she has, by the act of giving up her looks, is such an incredible act that she accomplished way quicker. She could let go of her looks. Okay, it's kind of interesting. Think about it. Are you willing to let go of your looks? I asked one of my disciples before, I said, are you willing to lose one finger to become enlightened? One finger? No one's going to know. What about looks? People, they look at the face, your face. Everyone looks at your face. And she's willing to destroy it. That's how unattached she is to looks, to physical appearances. So that's one of the reasons why she became an arhat very quickly. So it has always trade-offs. All Dharma has trade-offs, okay? I wouldn't teach her that way, but that's the path. That's one of the lessons she chose to leave for us, so that we can decide. Okay. Anything else? Now, you notice that there was a dead cricket when it was circumambulating outside. Did anyone notice?
I didn't see it.
No one noticed, right?
No.
It wasn't there. I will walk out there last night. I didn't see it this morning as I went out there to cut off a rose. I discovered it. It's right by the kitchen entrance. You know those cement stairs, right there. It's right there.
Oh.
And you go out there, and on your way out, you check it out because the body is mutilated. Somebody stepped on it.
Not before we got here or today?
Today. No, it's dead already. When I went out this morning to cut the flower, I noticed it was there.
Oh,
Okay. So what happened is that he asked me to help it. How it's for its rebirth. That's why it's there only. Okay. I decided to go that way and thinking you probably get crushed anyway because none of you will notice, and that's fine. So that you tie affinities with it. You only sought my help, not yours. But I decided to go the extra route because I thought you guys would want to create some good affinities with it. Okay. I'm sure it doesn't mind that much that it got crushed. Shouldn't be so attached to its body anyway. You want to hear the rest of the story about that cockroach the last time?
Yes. What happened?
Because I never saw it, only that day we were that first Saturday.
You went circumambulating like
Right,
this.
yes.
This small circle, right? It's standing right there by the faucet.
Over by the water faucet.
Yes.
The water faucet.
You stayed there last
Still, right? The only thing that moves is its antenna, its double antenna.
Last week?
No, you weren't here. It was when you weren't here.
Yeah, she was in China,
Yeah.
having a good time in China. So what happened is that it was there when we were circumambulating. It was there, okay?
The whole time.
The whole time, didn't move. It was in samadhi.
Just like.
Yeah, just stood still. It's a big one, right? Too. Right? It's like about the size of my thumb, right?
Good, good cockroach, real nice one.
Big size, okay? And
Big eyes.
And then after that, Mel noticed that it was moving up and down on the wall.
He tried to climb up the wall a couple of times, but he only got about a foot high.
Yeah, moving up and down. Yeah, and then a couple of days later, I went out there. I walked out there to water the plants or whatever. I saw her in the middle when we were circumambulating. She was lying face up. It's dead.
Oh, on his back.
On his back.
Yeah, he rolled over and died on his back.
It's right in the center where we're circumambulating.
Wow.
You think that the animal world, the insect world, don't know? They don't know. They do know so much more on the way.
There were two ants around sitting over there. I don't know what's in my body right now or not.
I
It's
think
now.
we probably brought him in.
No, there's an ant colony in my house that I never really.
Need to talk to him, Master.
Well, Mel talked to them, they wouldn't go. He put some chemicals.
They diminished. They just didn't leave.
They wouldn't leave. There were chemicals, and then he put some chemicals, and I stopped them for a while, and then they came back, and then I think one day I got pissed off.
You said, I found them in my bowl, and I'm going to get rid of them.
Oh yeah, I said, there are limits for my patience, which we learned about later today. And so I chased them away. So they quickly went away. And then one day I felt remorse and I said, it's a big house. I don't care. They come around as long as they don't come to my bowl. And that's why I offer food to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. You don't just do that. It's disrespectful. So I have my reasons for getting angry. And so I said, okay, you can come back. And they're back now. They're everywhere.
Mine have been gone 9 months now. I haven't had a ant in my house for 9 months.
Really?
Yeah, and they're thick outside. They're walking all over the place outside. And I'd step over them and drive around them.
So if someone else is taking care of these problems, pests, whatever, you're not responsible. You don't play a part in that participation of their destruction.
No,
Oh,
I'm not supposed to.
okay.
Because that would be breaking precepts. That's part of the lay people's helping out around the temples by protecting, acting as Dharma protectors for the Sangha. Because when you folks do that, you're not breaking precepts.
So killing is one of our precepts, but we're
So when you're destroying vegetation is not a precept.
But with the ants and other insects like that, is it?
Yeah, the ants is something we don't kill around the temples. We just try to talk.
But if you ask, but if someone else does it, it's okay.
If we ask, then we are breaking precepts. We can't ask.
You can't ask.
No.
Yeah.
So you can't.
For example, when I teach you today about the rose thing, okay, I'm breaking precept. By teaching you, okay, by doing that, I'm also telling you to do that. I'm also breaking precepts for telling you to do that. Okay?
But you have to tell us, otherwise you wouldn't know.
Well, yeah. So if I don't teach you, then you won't know. But when I teach you, I break precepts. That's the fact of life. What do you want? You want it all? You want to have a cake and eat it too? You can't.
You have a little bit.
Have a picture?
That's the first morning I've heard about not cutting plants. I understood the spirits in the trees.
Yeah.
But this is the first time I've heard anything about that being a precept about.
Only for the monks, for the fully ordained monks and nuns. The shamans and shamanis can't cut plants. They can trim it.
So it's left home person's precept.
Yeah, the fully ordained ones. Only the monks and the nuns.
Okay.
I heard that for a tree or shrub up to a certain height, that there are usually spirits living in them. So when you cut shrubs or trees up to a certain height, you have to pray to make offerings before you.
Yeah, actually, it's not quite accurate. It got distorted. Actually, the bigger trees have the richer spirits.
Oh.
Okay, they're more powerful. Make sense to you? Like when you have more money, you live in a bigger house.
Oh.
So you don't want to go to Malibu and Bel Air and get those people upset, right? That's the analogy. Okay, that's why the bigger trees you don't want to fool around those things because the spirits there have more powers. You
Now, by
probably
bigger
want to get
trees.
on the good terms. For example, if you have a house with a big tree, the spirits love fragrance. So you can offer flowers, offer even incense to them. They would appreciate it.
Biggest, most beautiful tree on this block.
Yeah. So what does it mean? It means that those spirits, families who live there, their blessings ran out.
Well, you can always move to another tree.
Someone has to move. If they move to a bigger tree, then someone else has to move.
Oh,
Does it
you're
affect,
talking about all
does
of
it
it?
affect the karma of the person who was responsible?
You probably are not making a friend. You're losing some protection as well. What do you think? The spirits who live out there, they have their own needs too. So by cooperating with them, by living in harmony with them, you're better off, aren't you? All right.
Can I ask a quick?
Yeah.
Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva
Yeah.
is Kuan Yin, according to some things I've read.
Yes, it's 1 year. That's correct.
In part of Prajna Paramita, where they're talking about the skandhas, they say his profound learning or illumination in discovering the skandhas, and part of the time he's a she, and part of the time she's a he. And is Avalokiteshvara the Sanskrit name for Kuan Yin, which is a Chinese name?
No, that's a Sanskrit, and yeah, 1 year is Chinese. Yes.
Was Avalokiteshvara a very early bodhisattva, and Kuan Yin was later? Are they the same entity, or is it a rebirth situation I'm mixed up about?
No, it's a good question. There's a 1 yin, or the Bodhisattva of Great Compassion, is the Chinese name for that. Avalokiteshvara is the Sanskrit name for that Bodhisattva.
Pure and simple.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
all.
Why
Why
did they mix up the gender?
There's no gender.
Bodhisattvas, once you become enlightened, there's no more male or female. You become unisex.
So intermix is no problem.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Doesn't matter. Usually, the Bodhisattva manifests as a female because it's better to. The females are better associated with compassion. She's a great compassion. She's the manifestation of great compassion. That's why, like a mother, like a great mother to living beings. That's why she's more frequently referred to as a she, but in essence, that's for the common folks. But at a high level, you should recognize that the bodhisattvas are called bodhisattvas, and they have no sex, no more sex differentiation.
Okay.
Just like when you were born in Amitabha's Pure Land, you're born by transformation, not by by the sexual intercourse or by test tube. So, and therefore there's no sex differentiation. You would call them male, you would call them female. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, let's the Sangha with great virtues, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth. Namo Saranto Suche Doye Olahodi Samyao Samputo Siye.
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 The unsurpassed, deep, profound, subtle, wonderful Dharma in 100,000 million aeons is difficult to encounter. Now that I've come to receive and hold it within my sight and hearing, I vow to fathom the thus come once true and actual being. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Shenhua, all good no advisors, Amitofo. Section 15. Okay, we were talking about patience the last time. Last time we talked about strength or force. Okay, and we listed out 5 different things that are strong. 1 is the child's fear. 2 is woman's hatred. 3 is Brahman's patience. 4 is king's arrogance. 5 is arhat's vigor. And the sixth is Buddha's compassion and kindness. It's meant for you to recognize the kind of forces you may encounter. They could go either way. There's a nun who's very famous in the Buddhist circles. Actually, she's even more famous than Thich Nhat Hanh in some sense, because she's a nun, and there's some usually nuns are not as highly revered as the monks. So one day she went and saw a monk and asked for some kind of Buddhist business. And the monk said, "What do you know? You're a nun. What can you do for the Buddha Dharma?" And she got so angry. And so she made a vow to make a very big contribution to the Buddha Dharma, just to let these monks know. And so she went around and founded Suji. That's her. That's her story. She has no kung fu. They are known everywhere throughout the world. Even like, for example, with an earthquake in Panama, they would go to Suji and ask for money, ask for help. They would get a check before they would get it from Taiwan or government of Taiwan or the UN. Suji is very fast, very efficient. They are organized throughout the world. They're everywhere. So she's very well known. Okay, she even founded her own hospitals in Taiwan, among a lot of things like old people's home, okay, retirement homes, hospitals, and so on. And one of her Dharma protector is a man whose fortune was worth about $2.5 billion like 7 years ago. Or 10 years ago, when I heard about it. He gave his entire fortune to her cause. Just like that. And this woman has no spiritual powers. Kung Fu is not that great. Okay? But she has very strong supporters. In fact, her Kung Fu is not as high as most of them. And so what happened is that it became a charity organization instead of a Buddhist organization. It's a Buddhist charity, but it's known throughout the world as a charity more than a Buddhist charity. Why? Because there's no Buddhist dharma in the charity. Nothing wrong with that. You have to have the vision to know how to do charity. Okay?
I had my first direct contact with one of their organization this past Wednesday. Gave a ride to one of the nuns at the temple.
She has an apartment?
Appointment.
An appointment. Okay. The nun at Goldview or Long Beach, right?
Long Beach.
Yeah. They
free clinic,
yeah, they have free clinics. They would go to the city 10,000 Buddhas, bring their own dentists and doctors and whatever. They're very good in that sense. But so they practice giving, okay? But when you give, you also are supposed to give dharma as well. Otherwise, they become spoiled. Okay? When you give, the Buddhist act of giving is that you give something to get on a person's good side, a living being's good side, so that they would listen to your advice. Okay? So you for example, a beggar comes along and comes around, so you give that person something, and hoping that you have the chance to speak Dharma to them, because giving Dharma is really the ultimate act of giving. Okay? That's how you give in Buddhism. You don't simply give. That's nothing. You give them, what do? When you do that, when you do the act of giving, what are you doing? You're accruing heavenly blessings. That's what you're doing. So in the future, you'll be reborn in the heavens. That's about it. It's not complete. So when you give and then you speak Dharma, somehow you find a way to speak Dharma to them, then you're accruing both heavenly blessings as well as wisdom. You're accruing both blessings and wisdom. That's the act of Buddhist giving. She doesn't understand that. That nun did not quite understand that giving Dharma. So that's the fine. It's a fact of organizing, doing Buddhist charity is fine, but it's not complete yet. She has this entire organization, worldwide organization of very faithful believers, devoted believers who are practicing giving, and yet they're not practicing the truly Mahayana giving Dharma.
There's a bookcase in the clinic and they're full of Buddhist books and Dharma talk books. Is it part of giving Dharma?
Yeah, sure. But that's not, you should understand how to give. That's what I'm saying.
Or by leading people?
By helping people, by preaching to people, by teaching people, by giving advices to people. At the right time, don't impose your views and your knowledge on them. Okay? You give to them so that you open the doors, you create the opportunity for them to come to you and seek for more. Okay? The fact they come to you and you have the chance to give to them, that means that you create a connection for them to come back. And they eventually realize that you have more wisdom to give as well, in addition to materialistic things. That's how you give. Alright? Otherwise, it's no different than giving at the kitchen soup or whatever. What's the difference? The Buddhist Dharma is a little bit deeper. A little bit, even you also consider the giving of fearlessness. So in Buddhism, we have the three kinds of giving that will round out the Dharma of giving. Alright? So That's the example that nun is an example of using a woman's hatred and turning it into something really constructive. It's up to you. It's up to you how you use the forces. Okay? You recognize those forces, you turn them in the right direction, it becomes very beneficial for everyone. That's the meaning. And we're not talking about the force of love in here, in those 5, in those 6, are we? Why didn't we mention love? Because love is misunderstood. It's mentioned in number 6, the Buddha's compassion and kindness is the Buddha's love. Of course, with love, people can be motivated to move mountains. That's a fact. Okay, but it's not. Or why didn't we mention like natural forces like hurricanes or tornadoes or avalanches? They're nothing compared to that, say, number 3, Brahman's patience. Those Brahmins, they can muster more strength and more forces than hurricanes. Trust me. Nothing. Spiritual power. These guys have incredible spiritual powers. You don't hold with them. Okay, and that's nothing compared to an aha, it's bigger. All right. Speaking of patience, there are 3 kinds of patiences that you need to be aware of. Patience under unfairness, patience under suffering, patience of non-production. The ultimate strength is patience, right? That's what the Sutra says. And there are 3 kinds of patiences that you need to be aware of. Why do we talk about patience against unfairness, under unfairness? It's one of the hardest things to be patient about, isn't it?
Everything that happens to us that we don't like is unfair.
Yeah.
Most complain about unfairness.
At work, at home, everywhere. That's the one thing that gets people riled up. That start revolutions, right? That's how this country is founded.
Actually, there's nothing that's unfair. It's actually,
There's unfairness everywhere, precisely. That's why you need to learn to be more patient. The more you can bear at work, okay, the more your Kung Fu will increase. Cultivation is not about crossing your legs only. Crossing your legs is only part of it. It's also what you do when your legs are not crossed. Okay? What about patience against suffering? Can you escape suffering? Nah. It's in your life. Right. And we even seek it, aren't we? We cross our legs to suffer even more. Why?
You practice patience.
To be more patient. We don't talk about it, we do it. Right? Speaking of suffering, what kinds of sufferings are there we should be patient with? This is a test. Anyone remembers, we've talked about sufferings already in the early sections. There are 3 kinds of sufferings. Okay, what are they? Suffering within suffering, very good. What's the next? Suffering of process, suffering of decay. Are there 8 kinds of suffering? Okay, what are they? Sufferings of, the first 4 are easy.
age, sickness, and death.
Yeah, birth, aging, sickness, and death. They're suffering, they're painful. What about the last 4? No, be very clear. When decays are the 3 kinds of suffering, that's different way of looking at suffering. In the 8th suffering, you look at the suffering of being apart from the one you love.
Yeah.
Being near those who you really detest.
Not getting what you want.
Not getting what you want.
Being
That's
dissatisfied.
really suffering, isn't it? Okay? And the last one is the raging five skandhas. Okay? So the three kinds of suffering is more general. It's more like what you have and you lose or decay, or what you don't have is a kind of suffering, or what you have and you lose it. Okay, that's suffering or decay. And the suffering of life process, nothing you can do about it. We die. Nothing we can do. Okay? But in the raging five skandha is what? It's much more refined, it's more detailed, because the five skandhas are really robbing us. Okay?
From feeling, from
Yeah. We have zero control. We go through, we know, even if we know about those things, there's nothing we can do. The more we know, the more agonizing it becomes. The five skandhas is the Buddhist Dharma. It's not available for the externalists. The externalists don't know about the five skandhas. You're confused about them, actually. And what are the patience and non-production? What is that?
you know something needs changing, but it doesn't happen.
No. Patience and non-production is very important. The most important patience of all. It's the patience of an aha. Non-production meaning no thoughts. No matter what happens to an aha, she or he produces no thoughts.
It's impossible.
Great.
At this point, yeah, as soon as the legs hurt, stop it, right? Stop it.
It's going to be a while longer.
That's why you train. That's why you cross your legs. What's the point in crossing your legs? What am I teaching you here? What does an arhat know that you don't know? What does an arhat do about his or her leg pains that you are not doing? What do you think?
Tolerance.
Thinking about it.
No, he doesn't think about it. He doesn't think about it. But how does he get there?
Keeps doing it.
No. Yes, but how? Okay, the question is not well phrased. How what's a quick way to get there? How do you get to experience an aha state? By watching yourself die. The legs hurt, watch it die. Instead of moving, instead of unbuckling, you watch it. That's Mahayana Dharma. The Mahayana secret. See, I have yet to get all of you to do that. I tell my people, my students to do 2 hours. Ooh, I can do 1 hour and a half. That's it. That's where I stop. And then once you get to 2 hours, I tell you to do 4. 4, I tell you to do 8. Why? The point is that I'm teaching you to learn to watch yourself die. You don't do anything. You watch it. Not documented anywhere, folks. Not written anywhere. Why? Because remember we learned about the difficulties, the list of difficulties earlier? Difficulty to face the certainty of death. Okay? Remember that? Difficulty? Now I'm telling you that watch yourself die. That leg die. Let it watch it come back to life. That's how you control your life. That's the Mahayana secret, boys and girls.
So you're destroying hope by gaining hope?
By not becoming attached to. Know that Death is such a scary thing. Pain is such a hard thing to bear, and yet you face it. If you don't do anything about it. That's real strength, folks.
Sometimes I don't even get to 30 and I'm in such pain.
And you unbuckle, right?
No,
See,
I do all kinds of stuff and then I go back there.
See, that's the thing. You are at the stage right now. That's why I talk about arhatship. I'm not talking about you simple goddesses. You want to know to get to state of an arhat. Okay? Watch yourself die. Do you dare? I dare you. Master Shinhua never taught his disciples. I discovered this myself. Because I had no teacher. See, they are more lucky than me because they have like libraries of dharmas they can practice. Right? I came, he left right away. He only taught me one thing. And that's it. So I had to discover all these dharmas. Do not be afraid of death. Just when I challenge you to watch yourself die. Okay? And this lady here, she made it to second dhyana already. Just like that. You work hard. That's vigor. The paramita of vigor right there. You work very hard. Day in, day out. Okay? And I haven't taught all of you the Dharma yet of watching yourself die and do nothing. Go ahead and die, leg. Go ahead and kill me, legs. Go ahead and kill me, back pain. See how far you can go. Why do you think you've been progressing so quickly? Because we are much more vigorous. Aren't we? Your pace of your progress is a lot quicker because you are more vigorous. Well, it's really under your control. Okay? Any questions about that? When the mind's defilements are gone and completely so that it is pure and untainted, that is the utmost brilliance. When there is nothing from before the formation of the heavens and the earth until now, in any of the 10 directions that you do not see, know, or hear, when you have attained omniscience, that may be called brilliance. Any questions on this section here?
Is everything a defilement?
I'm sorry?
Is everything a defilement in our mind?
Ultimately, every thought is defilement.
Is defilement.
Yes. That's why we practice, so that we get rid of all thoughts. In Chan meditation or in Pure Land meditation, you go back to one thing only. That's it, the Buddha's name. That's it. Before that even goes away. Then you become totally pure. That's when you reach the patience of non-production. See how they all tie together? Yes.
So this is more than, say like you said in Maitreya.
Yes, he still has one portion of ignorance left. Then you become a Buddha. No, this is the state of absence of thoughts. All the mind defilements, all thoughts are gone completely. Okay? That state. Okay? What is a state? A state is something that you transition through in and out. That's what a state is, right? When you practice, okay, a state is something you face and then it goes away. Even your leg pains are simply a state. The process there, you learn the process of being faced with an excruciating leg pain and not doing anything about it. Okay? And in that, you attain strength. You gather and harness more and more your inner strength. Okay? And eventually you'll get to the state where when all those intense tests come and you are not reacting anymore. You give rise to no thoughts. There's the training process will eventually bring you there. Okay? But you can't simply talk about it. You have to do it, and you know what this is about. So when the mind is pure and untainted, how do you get to that state of purity and being untainted? By dwelling on the yang side, by doing good. It's very difficult to be pure and untainted when you take the yin path. You can get there eventually, but it's much harder. Much, much harder. Eventually you have to cross over to the yang side. So better to be on the yang side. Yang side is more pleasant. Okay? So certainly you can get there. Like you can take the yin path by doing evil and doing those bad. Eventually, yeah, you can get there too. Unfortunately, but it takes a lot longer and it's much harder, much more unpleasant. That's why when you cultivate, dwell on the yang side, you examine yourself and catch and purify your mind from its yin elements. Does it make sense to you?
Yep.
Okay. Well, eventually you understand. That is utmost brilliance. What's another word for utmost brilliance? Enlightenment, the Buddha state. Wisdom, the light is associated with wisdom. When you have wisdom, you emit light. When you're pure, you emit light. For example, first dhyana is a state where your body begins to emit light naturally. Okay?
Your body chemistry actually changes.
Oh yeah, it changes. The structure changes. You emit light. Of course, normal people can't see it. Otherwise, it would be a scary thing to do. you stand out like a sore thumb. That's a lot of hassle. You don't want to do that. Luckily for us, most people can't see it. They can't see our light. Yes.
So,
Is that good or bad?
we're getting in the way of your own enlightenment. Obviously, I mean, you're doing good for them, but like if all the
The bodhisattvas motivate themselves by relieving other beings' sufferings. That's how they function.
thought, like we have thoughts,
We have thoughts? What do you mean?
like how we have coarse thoughts that say like, oh, okay, so you say you'd be unmoved. Like say you see a dog limping.
Yeah.
Just like they probably see us suffering and they want to help us.
Yeah, they can do it. They can function without reading rise to thoughts.
Oh, okay.
Thoughts is that simply thoughts refer to the working of your conscious mind, your thinking process.
Or they do things, but they're still in control.
They can function without giving rise to the mental processes that we normally go through. Okay? In our world, the mental processes are the king, the reign. Okay? They're in control. They're not in control in the bodhisattvas. That's the difference.
Our thoughts are in control, but theirs are not.
That's right. Most of the time they're not. When there are times when they're caught in their ignorance or they're caught by their karmic retributions, then they are controlled by the thoughts. They don't even know. This is what I explained in that lecture, in Shurangama lecture, in that last time I went there, last year. Remember? That woman, that nun explained about the bodhisattva state and the Buddha state.
Their ability to overcome their karma.
Yeah, that kind
That's
of
what
thing.
they discussed.
Yeah, along that lines. And then she went on to explain about the mental states of bodhisattvas and Buddhas, and she was so wrong. She had no idea what she's talking about. That's why I had to jump in right away and said, you going off a cliff here because you don't understand this Dharma here. I didn't quite explain. I didn't put it in those terms, but because you're referring to a state that you don't know about. Okay? Because it's not written down anywhere at all. It's not meant to be written down. Even if it's written down, you can't understand it anyway, because cannot be described by words.
The next weekend when you weren't there, and she got up to start the Shurangama class, she said, I still think the Bodhisattvas can control their karma and don't have to put up as much as we think they will.
That's true. She's right. But what she does, what you have to understand is that ignorance, no one is spared by ignorance. Okay? Including Bodhisattvas, including Maitreya. When Maitreya Bodhisattva gets to where he's ignorant about, when that happens, he loses control. That's where the law of karma comes in. Okay? Bodhisattvas are not free from the karmic retributions. We break precepts, we pay for it. No two ways about it. Okay? We do something bad, you pay for it. That's why it's better to do something good, because the retribution is much better for you, much more pleasant for you. Right? Because the retributions for your bad karmas tend to pull you down. The retributions for the effects for your good deeds tend to lift you. Therefore, it's easier for your cultivation. Right?
I think she was more than bodhisattvas, even though she had mentioned them. She was talking about sages. Remember, she was talking about
has no business talking about sages.
No, she was. She was saying sages do this and sages do that.
This is where you explain Dharma, you have to be very, very careful about. You don't say sages are this, sages are that. Because when you speak Dharma, you have to know what you're talking about. If you don't, the way you talk about it, you say, according to Master Hsuan Hua, he said, sages and so are so and so.
Oh, okay.
This is a state that Master Hsuan Hua described. So you defer the responsibility to him, not to you. Okay, because when you say you speak Dharma that's wrong, the consequences are extremely, extremely severe for you. Why do you think that a lot of monks and nuns do not explain sutras? First of all, they don't understand. And number two, the consequences of saying something wrong is extremely severe. Why? When you say something that's stupid, what are you doing? You're giving stupidity to the audience. You are polluting living beings' minds. Extremely severe. It's better to say nothing. Okay? Or say things you know for sure. But do not go out on a limb and say things you think it's right. Because the consequences could be very disastrous for you. And that's the arrogance right there, because even if you may be studying the sutras for 20 years or 10 years, you only are able to penetrate the sutras meaning at your level. The 20th floor, 30th floor, that's it. I don't care how long you study, 10 years, 20 years, 20 lifetimes. If you do not, your kung fu does not raise above whatever you have, that is all you can penetrate. Right? It's not the amount of time you invest in it. It's how deep you can get. Right? And that's why when you cultivation, be extremely careful about arrogance. Do not think you know. There's so much you don't know. Look at the structure of the teachings here so far. The last 2 months, I taught you a lot of concepts. You don't even know how they are interconnected. I need to reveal them to you bit by bit, bit by bit. You don't even remember what the 8 sufferings are. They taught to you because for a reason. Okay? And you have to be patient. And let it unfold itself bit by bit, bit by bit. Takes time. That's why you need to do both. You need to practice your kung fu and learn the wisdom part as well for you to be balanced. Alright? When there's nothing from before the formation of heaven and earth until now, when you're free from space in the 10 directions, you do not see, know, or hear. Your wisdom transcends space and time. That's the utmost brilliance. Okay?
No,
That's a state of enlightenment.
What does that say? What does that really? That means you don't think of that anymore. Is that what that's saying? That your mind becomes blank and clear, and you don't even have to think about the universe.
No, you're still stuck in that. What this section refers to is that you are free from your transcend. You're no longer constrained by space or time. Formation of heaven and earth until now, meaning time. 10 direction, meaning space.
Don't I live in space and time? We all live
Your
in
current body lives in space and time,
Yeah, well, yes,
but your wisdom,
space.
your Buddha nature transcends space and time.
But my mind and my
Your enlightened nature, is not constrained by space or time. Okay? When you become enlightened, you have the wisdom that transcends time and space. And that's true brilliance. Right? Omniscience is the knowledge, is nothing you don't know. Including marriage or relationships. Isn't that funny how you give up marriage and relationship, eventually you get so that you can develop a knowledge quicker? Section 16, casting aside love and attaining the way. The Buddha said, people who cherish love and desire do not see the way, just as when you stir clear water with your hand. Those who stand beside it cannot see their reflections. So, too, people are entangled in love and desire, have stupidity in their minds, and therefore they cannot see the way. You, Shramana, should cast aside love and desire. When the stains of love and desire disappear, you will be able to see the way. The last section we talked about brilliance and strength. You need strength to sustain your efforts, right? And brilliance is the wisdom to guide you in your process. This is the Buddha's revelation that we have a hidden treasure. Okay? Our nature is inherently pure and clear already. So the process of cultivation involves dusting ourselves, purifying ourselves, so that we go back to our original pure and clear nature. And how do you do that? The biggest obstacle in the way is love and desire. Love and desire. Any questions about that? Any objections? Let me ask you this. Can you be calm and at peace with sexual desire, with sexual excitement? Can't, can you? So you cross your legs for a long, long time and then you indulge in sexual desire. Can you destroy your state of samadhi? That's it. Any questions about this? Any objections to this?
If I'm watching myself die, then I'm casting aside those two things.
Precisely.
Because they're not important if I'm dying.
Watch those thoughts die. See, don't take my instruction literally. If you do it like that, then eventually you have to go to the next step. Okay, all those things, all those states appear, you watch them come and go. Watch them be born and die. Be born and die. Just like you. So what's to be attached? Does it to the rest of you?
I was born with nothing, I'll leave with nothing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what that woman who destroyed her face understood before she became alive. Just think about it. What else can be more personal than your face, your good looks? You look at yourself every morning in the mirror, don't you? Don't you want to look at something pleasant? And yet she destroyed it. She's no longer attached to her own appearance. That's the Dharma she taught us. Right? So basically, your nature is pure and clear already. It's because all these excitements, all these thoughts, these stray thoughts keep on coming, popping up. And that's why it's like the water being agitated. If you learn to control those thoughts and not add to them, not add fuel to the fire, then those thoughts will die by themselves quicker. And the water, just like the waves, eventually will die off and the water becomes clear, calm and clear again. That's the state of enlightenment. Okay? And the primary force for those creation of the waves is love and desire. So I submit to you that the next time you see a love-home person, you should be more respectful because these folks do know a little more than you do, in a sense that they chose a path and says, this is what I'm going to be dealing with directly. I'm going to face these things head on. Okay? So maybe the Kung Fu is not there yet. Maybe the Kung Fu is maybe lower than yours. But the commitment is deeper than yours. That deserves respect, doesn't it? As long as you indulge in thoughts of love and desire, you're creating waves in your pond. How more plainly can I put it to you? The Buddha put it that way, section 16 right here. You are simply stirring your own problems, stirring up your own problems. That's a fact. What do you mean?
I don't mean the sexual part of it. I mean the mother's love for child after the child is among the family is very strong.
Yeah.
Commonly well known.
Yeah.
And so that is a thing that a very large defilement, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a very strong attachment.
Yes, very strong.
She can't cultivate.
Can't.
You sit there and practices, and then the thought comes, oh, I need to take care of a meal. That's it.
Yeah.
Up, you stand up, and off you go.
And you get some anger and some hatred and some ignorance and stupidity.
So that's part of our settlement of debts. Okay? Or creation of merit and virtues. It depends. But when you cultivation process is the process of identifying those things that will stir up your mind. That's what this section is about. And the two groups are love and desire. Those are the biggest troublemakers. And that includes love for your children. That's why people, they shave their head and say, okay, I renounce you. I'm sorry. This is what my past's going to be. I need to save myself first. Because my mind is unclear. I can't save you. Okay?
It's easier to do in the winter than the summer because the girls wear more clothes. You didn't read that, did you?
Section 17. When light arrives, darkness departs. The Buddha said, those who see the way are like someone holding a torch who enters a dark room, dispelling a darkness, so that only light remains. When you study the way and see the truth, ignorance vanishes and light remains forever. The nice thing about this section is that the simplicity of the process. Once you understand, all processes, all instructions are very straightforward, very simple. Okay? The fact of cultivation is simply you bring a torch into a dark room and light it up. It can't be any simpler than that. Darkness is ignorance. Darkness is hatred. Darkness is anger. Darkness is lust. Darkness is jealousy. Right? The yin things that you do not wish to reveal to others, that's darkness. Those dark corners in your mind, your private lives, that's darkness. You want them to be dark. Okay? Cultivation, you bring the light and light up all those areas. Why? You see clearer. You keep it dark because you do not want to face it. You want to be ignorant. You want to still be ignorant about these things. It gets scarier and scarier, folks. There are fewer places for you to hide.
Does ignorance, the comment ignorance vanishes, mean getting rid of the thought completely, or just understanding that that's something as an ignorant thing to do or think?
Run that by me one more time. Excuse me.
It says ignorance vanishes, which implies that your mind won't think of that anymore. Does it mean that, or does it mean that once you see the truth, and even though you're still not living it, you see it and you understand it's wrong?
You're still debating it intellectually. The process of being described here is very, very physical. You bring a light, a torch into a dark room.
I do everything. That's all I show.
That's it. That's all you do. See the beauty of the teaching here? See, you're discussing it intellectually. The process here is very physical. You take a torch, again, you bring it to where it's dark. Talk about it. You don't describe it, you do it. Isn't that beautiful, the teaching?
Okay.
Huh?
Okay.
See, we tend to discuss it. We say, oh, I'm not sure I understand, so how do I do it? No, it's nothing to do. You take a torch, you bring it to a dark area.
And it lights up.
It lights out. No place to hide.
So the point is not knowing the truth, it's seeing it.
It's doing it. It's taking a torch and bring it to where it's dark. That's the beauty of the practice right there. Isn't that? It's so fantastic. It is so, to me, it's so ingenious.
So as long as it's in the dark, we're ignoring it.
That's right.
Yeah.
You are confused.
And the brighter the light gets, the more advanced and better off you are. The better off you understand the way.
You have to have access to a torch. Okay? That is what your samadhi power, isn't it? I just told you you emit light. Don't you?
Yeah.
So if, as long as you're in samadhi, what are you doing? You're emitting light. Aren't you? So are you shedding light on your darkness, on your ignorance?
Yes.
Can you become enlightened without samadhi? You know why? You see why the chant training is so important? You see why crossing your legs is so important? Because crossing your legs helps you get into samadhi easier. When you're in samadhi, you're shedding light into your dark corners. The dark corner is your mind. That's what you're doing. And not only that, when you come together like this in a Dharma assembly like this, when you emit light, you're emitting light for everyone else as well. You emit light around your house, you emit light in the dark corners of the people around you as well. Aren't you? So don't think because you investing time in crossing your legs and taking time away from work and making money and spending time with your family, you're being selfish. You're benefiting your family already because you're shedding light on their ignorance, whether they're aware of it or not. Giving already. You're giving the light of wisdom. Practicing giving without giving. Aren't you? So I teach you, I train you to do these things so that you don't become attached to doing these things. You do all these things already and you don't even know. You're giving wisdom already. You're shedding light already. You're sharing your light already. So when you are in your yin moods, what are you doing? You no longer are shining, emitting light. You're not helping anyone. Least of all yourself. Alright? And the thing here is that he reminds you, because the Buddha is so kind and compassionate. It says the process is very simple. You bring light into a dark room. Dark room symbolizes ignorance. The light comes in. The darkness goes away. It's nothing to do. It's that simple. You shine a light on the dark area and the ignorance goes away. It's that simple. Nothing, not a big deal about it. But then he reminds you that you need to study the way. Why? Because samadhi power is not enough. You need to know where it's dark. See, when you live in the dark, you so use the darkness, you don't even know anymore. Isn't that right? You go to the Soviet Union, or you go to Vietnam, for example, the standard of living in Vietnam is much lower than here. You know, I went to Taiwan and the toilet there is like a hole on the floor. I'm sorry, and you're not meaning to put down Taiwanese people. The same thing in Vietnam, China too. Here we use it sitting on a toilet bowl. Over there they set on the feet. Okay?
Japan too.
Japan too. So different customs are different. And so we're used to it. Okay? So when I went to go back to Taiwan several years ago, I was shocked. I said, wow, this is what I used to do in Vietnam. And they still do it. Okay? For us, it's a shock. For them, it's same thing. Darkness is the same thing. I'm not saying that sitting on going toilet that way is being ignored. Okay? I'm just saying, using that example as an analogy to say that if you're used doing yin things, you're used to living in darkness, you're so used to darkness that you don't even know it's dark anymore. That's why you need to study. Okay? And see the truth. Ignorance vanishes and light remains forever. Oh, it's so simple. Any questions? Section 18, thoughts and so forth are basically empty, Buddha said. My Dharma is a mindfulness of both mindfulness and non-mindfulness. It is a practice that is both practice and non-practice. It is words that are words and non-words. And cultivation, that is cultivation and non-cultivation. What is this nonsense here?
Yes, I know.
He talks with both sides of his mouth at the same time.
The dualistic middle way definition.
What does it mean? What is this about?
Everything's in balance.
No, it's duality.
Yes.
It's Dharma.
Yes.
It transcends duality.
Yes.
But that's nature, though. The yin and yang.
No,
You cannot have one without the other.
that's true. It's only a manifestation of your Dharma nature, your Buddha nature. Okay, so your Buddha nature is basically true emptiness. It's nothing in it. And then the duality is something that manifests from that arises from that.
Taoists believe that the yin and yang, but in the true Buddha and yang, come from the Buddha nature. But it's called true emptiness, but it's really not true emptiness. It's everything. And
That's
like
the
form is emptiness. Emptiness is form.
very
That's
good.
what he's saying.
That's a concept. That's a concept of true emptiness and wonderful existence. Okay, that you will be covered later. The Buddha Dharma is a deeper level, much deeper level than a Taoist concept of yin and yang. Yin and yang is only to relate to you. Okay, to connect to you through your attachments. You attach to either yin or yang, or both. Okay? We connect to you through your attachment, and then we help you let go of that attachment. Okay? You don't understand true emptiness anyway. Yeah, you can only approach it through gradual cultivation.
Doesn't that say emptiness though? When it's there is, there isn't, there is, there isn't, there is, there isn't. That's emptiness, isn't it?
Precisely. Very good.
Yes.
He's the first one who understands the process. You see, you guys don't understand it yet because he's much higher level. He understands. How can it be yes and no at the same time?
Because it is.
Because
it is.
Because we discriminate. That's why we can't see. You know, we have to have something hidden.
You can only have something that is and is not at the same time only if you have true emptiness. I'm not talking about emptiness here. I'm not talking about empty air here, empty space here. I'm not talking about the space here, spatial out there, okay, the void out there. The vacuum out there in space. I'm not even talking about it. I'm talking beyond that. Because that is still falls within the realm of duality. You have something that's void and something that's not void. Okay? And therefore, you could either have either or. Alright? True emptiness is and is not at the same time.
It's matter and antimatter. Matter and antimatter cancel each other and mean nothing.
It takes time to get there. What do you think? Because right now it's so important to you, is so important to you, or is not is so important to you. You're so attached to is.
That
Or is
that
not.
is that is not, is not.
You're still attached to those concepts. It's so important to you. Love is so important to you. Having children is so important to you. Having a family is so important to you. That's is. Right?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And the more you cultivate, the less is becomes less and less important. Alright? So, how the mindfulness that is taught in the Theravadan tradition is really pretty good mindfulness. But then they stuck with mindfulness. They haven't let go of the non-mindfulness yet, of the mindfulness yet. They're still stuck with that. That's why when the Buddha said mindfulness and non-mindfulness is that you're mindful, but then you are not attached to being mindful. That's what is meant by non-mindfulness. See, I read these things years ago. I didn't understand because it's nonsense. How can it be is and is not at the same time? You can't. It's nonsense. I was stuck on this for years and years and years.
Is all the
The wording cannot, if you read this, you cannot understand what it means. What it really means is that you are mindful, you practice the Dharma of mindfulness, but you are not attached to it. Alright? You practice, but you are not attached to your practice.
Practice, and you're not attached to your practice.
You practice to the ultimate point where you no longer are attached to your practice. For example, for you right now, practice is every day I have 8 hours of sleep, I have a few hours to eat and take care of my body, and I cross my legs for 1 hour. Right? There's practice. Right? Not even, maybe 1 hour is too much. Maybe 15 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, let's be reasonable. Okay? 15 is asking too much already, right?
10.
Okay, 10. I settle for 10. So you still have this discrimination. You said something called practice, which is desirable to me. I know it's very desirable, but I don't have enough time. Okay? And don't remind me about it because it makes you feel guilty. Okay. And you get better and you shave your head and you say, okay, I practice, this is my full-time job. So I eat 8 hours a day. Okay, that's my personal time. I shower and eat and I sleep 8 hours and I shower. This is a normal level person. I'm not talking Master Srinivas disciples, okay? They sleep a lot less. And I eat and and so on. So I practice 8 hours a day. That's full-time, maybe 10 hours a day. Okay? That's still practice. Isn't it?
Yeah.
And you say, I'm committed to 10 hours of practice a day, and this is my life. This is what I'm about. So what does it say? I'm still practicing. I see something called practice.
Yeah.
Right? It's important, that's good, and all those good things, but it's still practice. Something in your mind, a thought of practice arises. And you keep on practicing. Maybe you increase to 11 hours, and 12 hours, and 14, and 15. And so on. You never know what I'm going to make you do. But eventually you get to the point where your practice is no longer a practice for you. It becomes your life.
Becomes the way of life. That's the way it is.
Yes. Okay, so that's better, isn't it? Right now you're talking about a regular life and you say, 10 minutes of crossing my legs. Gosh, I wish I could get away with even less than that, okay? And who's going to know anyway if I don't cross my legs?
You will.
Okay?
You know what you're doing.
No, you know it. It doesn't matter who else knows. You know it yourself.
You personally.
That's right.
You know it. Okay. But then you get to the point where you commit to say, my life is practice, because this is what my life is about. Practice. Okay? So now your entire life is practice, and with maybe half an hour of non-practice time, of selfish time, maybe a few hours of selfish time. Nothing wrong with that. You go down the street, buy a cake and eat it, enjoy some ice cream, watch TV, listen to radio, gap with your friend. Personal time. It's all right. But your mind still differentiation between practice and non-practice time, right? And you keep on working at it until your mind no longer differentiates between practice and non-practice time. Okay? You don't bitch about it anymore. Or brag about it. Let's face it. You go from bitching to bragging, basically. Okay? And you keep going at it until you don't even think about practice anymore. Totally.
Just do it.
Just do it. That's the state of the sage. You transcend the discrimination part of your mind. So don't talk about that state until you examine yourself. How many non-practice time do I have versus practice time?
It is the truth.
It is words and non-words. When you reach that state, okay, it transcends words. That's what in China we refer to it as the path of words ends, is terminated. It leads nowhere. It stops in the middle of space. It just disappears. No more words can describe it. Okay? And cultivation, that is cultivation and non-cultivation. Those who understand are near to it, those who are confused are far away indeed. It is not accessible by the path of language, it is not hindered by physical objects. If you are off by a hair's breadth, you will lose it in an instant. So you can describe that state of is and is by language. That's why using language to describe is very confusing. I was confused for a long, long time because of that. I was attached to language. It's nonsense. I was so confused and so scared for a long, long time, really. I committed to living a life where I understood nothing. I have this room full of bookcases of Buddhist teachings that I didn't understand. It's a scary thought. Think about it. Why? Because I was attached to the language. I wanted to understand what the words meant. And you can't. The words are only meant for you to give you a sense of direction. Can't describe that final destination. It's just there. It's not hindered by physical objects. Nothing physical. It's nothing you can touch, can feel, can see. Emptiness. And it's very important. This is a very important part because it's very important to have the right sense of direction. Because if you aim, you off, at the start, just a tiny bit, you end up very far from it. And that's the fallacy of the non-Buddhist practices. They invest so much time, okay, in their practice. You cannot say that they're not dedicated as we are. They're very dedicated, even more. Like those Brahmins. They sit there and contemplate empty space day after day after day after day. Why? Because their end goal is so far off from our end goal. The more kung fu they attain, the further away it is. So the much more difficult for them to adjust the course.
Is that because of arrogance? Because the very brighter you think you are?
No. The more kung fu you have, the less willing you are to listen.
Yes. No.
You don't listen. Because the kung fu, the samadhi brings with it an enormous amount of knowledge, additional knowledge. Enormous amount of knowledge. Okay? You know so much more than before. And you're changing your knowledge even more than when you first came to me. And you stuck with my knowledge of what I thought I knew you then. You see what I'm saying? That's why you don't listen to your teacher anymore. He said, I know a lot more than he thought I do. He thinks I do nowadays. Because my knowledge is more than he described to me. See what I mean? I teach you these things, and then all of a sudden one day he said, hey, I'm giving my light already. He never taught me that, right? Does that mean I don't know about it? I don't teach you doesn't mean I don't know about it. And yet because you discover this knowledge, your wisdom by yourself, you said, I know about this, and he didn't tell me about it, okay? Therefore, I know a lot of things that he doesn't know. That's true. There's a lot of things I don't know about. But the important ones I do know about. Only the important ones. They're important to you. Okay? And therefore, the arrogance jumps right in and says, see, there's so much more he doesn't know about me. What does he know about me? Of course, who cares about you? You watch the movie for 2 hours and go away. You don't think about the actress. You don't think about Richard Gere. You don't think about Scarlett Johansson. It's 2 hours. That's all you got, right? Who cares? You have your life to live, and because of that, the self is so much more self-assured of itself. See, I know a lot more every day. I am unfolding my wisdom so much more. And so one day you decide for yourself that he doesn't know. I think I know more than he does. You reach a state that is referred to in the Shrangama Sutra as the Skanda demon state. Think you know more than your teacher when you fall. If your end goal, if you cultivate with the wrong purpose, you're going to end up so far away from where you want to be, where you should be. For example, I have a student who came to me and wanted to learn spiritual powers from me. Only gain kung fu from me. Okay? I teach. You want kung fu? I teach you kung fu. It's up to you. Whatever you want out of your life. Okay? It's what you want. It's not what I want. My job is to remind you something called Buddhahood. Okay? That's the direction you ought to go. And you say, okay, Sounds good. But I think I like to go to the heavens first. Nothing wrong with that. That's what you want to go. That's what you're going to go. You may not admit it to yourself. Okay? And that's what happened to my father. So all of us are trained in the Mahayana to go to strive for rebirth in the Western bliss spirit land. The Asian culture, that's what we are. That's one of our important heritages. Okay? It's easier for the people in the Asian culture to believe in the rebirth than you Westerners. And so we believe that rebirth is the best deal for us this lifetime. That's the best efforts for us to do. Okay? But deep down in our psyche, we also learn about, as you learn more later in later lectures, that the heavens, they're incredibly blissful up there. There's so much fun up there. You have spiritual powers. You can fly. You live in palaces. The women are so gorgeous. Okay? You have so much wealth that he said, it's kind of nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool to be able to fly to Paris and for lunch and then come back?
Yeah. I'll do that.
And because of that greed, the seed of greed in your mind, when you die, that's when those seeds will mature. That's why in Mahayana, it's the death time is very important for us, because that's when you ought to seek help. That's why the Buddhists, a lot of Buddhist people are making money off it, because they sell those help at death time, like Fa Yin Temple, Dharma Seal Temple in San Gabriel. The temple called Dharma Seal Temple. They have more followers than Gold Wheel Temple, because the food is better. It's a bigger temple, and people are a lot more courteous than Gold Wheel Temple. They have a lot of Gold Wheel people, Gold Wheel Temple's faithful. They move over to the Dharma Seal Temple because the Dharma Seal have a bigger library, have much better customer service, much better food. Okay? And what the temple thrives on is the death Dharma. They sell those plaques and they sell those services.
Does it work though?
Of course it works.
They will swallow following it if it works.
It's just like you. What do you want? You want a car you get from Rent-A-Wreck, or you want to buy a brand new Ferrari? Which one can you afford? The truth of the matter is, which one can you afford?
Rent-A-Wreck.
Rent-A-Wreck. I rest my case. You don't have the money. Don't talk to me about the Toyotas. Because in your mind, he says, I can only afford a Rent-A-Wreck.
But I like the Ferrari.
I like the Ferrari. I know about them, but I can only afford a Rent-A-Wreck. It takes me to places.
You have to have transportation.
So you may have a little bit more problems, but that Dharma is a Dharma that creates seeds, okay? But it does not necessarily bring you there right away.
Oh.
Okay? And there are always cases of people who have the blessings already. Okay? What do you think? That everyone can afford to buy a Ferrari or a Toyota? Well, you gotta have, give people who can only afford, the junk. So what happens is that all these dharmas are available for those people as well. It's just the same as, let's say, you guys reciting the Buddha's name versus a group of kindergarten children reciting the Buddha's name. What's the difference? It's all the Buddha's name, isn't it? It's Omito. They sound probably better than you guys do. But which one has more power? The difference.
So the Sangha hope that Dharma still had less kung fu, is that what you're talking about? Or
Absolutely.
it's not as effective?
Because if you have any real kung fu, you have your own temple already. And that includes me. Okay? You have any real accomplishment, you have your own temple. You don't need to go and work for someone else. Because that temple is owned by a couple of lay people. Husband and wife. And he hires monks and nuns to do the service. He pays them.
Hires?
Basically, yeah. The woman who does the nun who used to do the ceremonies there, she does a real good job, gets paid $100 every single day. Nothing.
I didn't realize something like that.
They make a living out of it. And they do a good job. I mean, they really do a good job. Because what happens is that it's a referral business. When you die, you can ask the people you know, right? And they have this family kind of own business tradition where they have referrals already. It works fine. There's nothing wrong with them. I don't mean to criticize them. I'm saying that is available to the people who have access to it. They're not going to know about the DRBA. They can't care less about the DRBA. Who are they? A bunch of crazies. Eating one meal a day, you think you're special or something? That's the normal reaction. Whereas it's these people, they have the channel of distribution already, and they do real good business of that, and they're doing good. Okay, they're really doing a lot of good for the people who can afford that kind of service. Okay. All right. Anything else? Section 19.
Isn't that the precepts of the lay people making a living?
Yeah.
That's a big no-no, right?
Big problem.
Because they make a living off of the Buddhas and then hiring Sangha. That's a
Big problem.
big bad retribution, I think, when you life.
It's stealing from
Buddha
temple
said
to.
that? Or
Yeah. Just like
one of the
you
teachings?
just like in Taiwan, all the people that do the fortune telling, a lot of them are blind.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a retribution. No, that's a retribution in the Buddhist teaching.
I mean, from something that they did
Past
prior
life,
life.
because you're using your spiritual power or your teaching, like the I Ching, to tell heaven's future. So the next life you come back, you don't have regular eyes. So these things, it's not a small thing, when you think about it. People, they're hiring Sangha to make money off the Buddhism. The retribution is very big.
Yeah, it's very severe.
Oh, it's huge. It's like you can't get out of it. Yeah. Everything is a cause and effect. Everything that happens, like the master said, it's unfair. It's really not unfair. It's just that we don't like we get it because it's not a blessing. It's a karmic retribution. If we like it, say, yeah, I deserve it. What happens when they're beating us? I didn't deserve that. Think about it.
There's nothing to do this. There's nothing.
There's always an effect, cause and effect. Single thing you do, whether you like it or not. You may not like what you're hearing, but I can't help it.
Negative.
Whatever you do carries with a consequence.
Newton said that too.
Force equals reaction. You can't escape it. But Newton is only true in on Earth.
He was physical action and reaction, but I just, it's discovered time and time again.
Yeah, I know. It's a formulation of the law of cause and effect. The forcible reaction still has limited domain. But cause and effect has no boundaries. Whatever you do, you will have to pay for it eventually. And if you intend to do it, if you do it on purpose, it comes back to you a lot quicker than you think. A lot quicker. Remember the thing? Do not harm a sage. Sages cannot be harmed. It's out of goodness to us. Do not harm others. It comes back to you a lot quicker than you think. Especially when you try to harm a sage. Oh boy. It's just like, bounce it right back. You feel it a lot quicker. Everything we do has a consequence. So these folks here, they make a lot of money, they do a decent living of it, and they're successful business people. But under the Buddha Dharma, is considered stealing from us, because they disguise themselves doing Buddhist work. They disguise themselves as helping others cross over, doing a rebirth thing.
But they're actually doing it, so isn't it part of...
They're making money off the execution of the Dharma. And what happens? All those Dharmas are, that rebirth Dharma is designed for what? It's meant to be an offering of the faithful to the Triple Jewel. Not making money. It's not making money. It's one of the few things that the Mahayana created as an expedient for the faithful to make an offering, because at that time it is so important. What happens at that time? Typically, people have a feast in this country. They have a feast, they drink, they have a merry time, right? They buy a band, they spend a lot of money in a coffin, all those things, okay? And all those things are wrong. They're all wrong. When someone dies, you probably should abstain from eating meat for some time. Whereas these people who have a feast, they kill pigs, they buy meat, and they enjoy themselves, they drink, okay? So they are inflicting pain on living beings to celebrate someone's death. And who pays the price? They all pay the price, including the deceased. Okay? So, instead of, when someone dies, you are supposed to create merit and virtue on that person's behalf. The beauty of the Dharma is right there. Okay? The person who is deceased needs help. Okay? And therefore, this is a chance for them to go to a temple and seek help on behalf of the deceased. Alright? And by purchasing a plaque and those services, okay, you actually are making an offering and asking for help.
Even if that person is not a Buddhist?
Even if the person is not a Buddhist, you do not have to be a Buddhist to ask for help. What are we? Some kind of cruel people who says, I only save my own kind? No. You come to us and say, hey, please, the deceased is in trouble. I want to seek help on the deceased's behalf. Okay? Whoever that person is, could be a cockroach even, could be a dog even. Absolutely. So you make an offering and say, yeah, I know this is the kind of thing where you need, when someone dies, you're supposed to make an offering on the behalf of the deceased to create merit and virtues. Okay? So that's why the expedient was created, so that you come and purchase the service, because that is then to us is an offering. Okay? And the offering comes in terms of a request. You say, I make this offering, but please dedicate it for this kind of effort for us. So far, so good. So you're creating merit and virtue, first of all, for yourself, because you are doing it on, so you're leveraging it, right? The recipient receives the benefit, and you also receive benefit because you are the sponsor. So everyone benefits from that, okay? And in the process, so then the temple people then execute the Dharma, okay, to help with the process. The Dharma can be executed by anyone. It doesn't necessarily have to be a left home person. That's why you go to Taiwan, they have huge businesses with the dead. You know that? They have people walking around. Every time you go to a funeral, you see people who are looking just like monks. The only thing you can tell they're not monks is that they have hair on their head. And they hit the bell, and they chant, they even do a better job chanting than the monks and the nuns. They're experts, they're professionals. That's what they do all day.
So
They're professional people, and they go from funeral to funeral, and they perform the ceremonies. Okay?
Does it actually help the dead?
So what happens? During ceremony, you recite the sutra and recite a mantra. He says, "Hey, ghost, please be kind to this disease," right? That's what the mantra may say. And the ghost look at it. Who are you to tell me what to do? So what happens? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Not only that, these people who do these ceremonies, they end up being very sick. It's a big mess they don't know about. They have no business meddling into other people's death thing, because you make a lot of money. This Dharma Seal Temple, they make a lot of money. And they don't know what they're getting into.
Well, if they did a public confession, like.
May not be enough. May not be enough. Because what happens is that, okay, going back to so never mind about a lot of aspects, but look at the fact that these people, this Dharma is created as an offering on the deceased behalf to the Triple Jewel, right? So what happens? These people actually are receiving the money. They're not passing it on the Triple Jewel. They put it in their own pocket. So what are they doing? They're stealing from the Triple Jewel, first of all. Right? Because the Dharma says, please, Triple Jewel, help me. The Dharma is created by us, by the Sangha, so that they come to us and ask for help. And make an offering to us, and dedicate an offering to help, for us to help them. Okay, to execute that very Dharma. All the merit and virtues of the offerings will accrue to the execution of the Dharma itself. Okay? So it's an offering of Triple Jewel. And these people then would build a temple and say, Dharma Seal Temple, so we are the Triple Jewel, aren't we? So you come to us and make an you buy a service from us, you make an offering. This is the same as going to Long Beach Monastery. Hey, you see a monk doing the ceremony, don't you? And they're even more friendly than the monks and nuns at Long Beach Monastery. That makes you feel better about the money you spend on them. So they are stealing from the Triple Jewel. They are lying to the public. They're putting up a false facade. It's on purpose. Okay. Remember, when I talk about these things, you have to differentiate between the two of them. There's always good and always bad in all things. What I was talking about earlier is the good thing about the Dharma itself. Whether the Dharma is executed by a monk or a nun or a lay person, they all have the benefits of the execution of the Dharma. All right? It's the car, for goodness sake. The car will take you somewhere. Right? So, but on the other hand, what's happening at that temple, in many temples, in many places in out there is that they are putting up a false facade, okay? And therefore, they're conning. It's a con thing. It's a con job. They're fooling people into thinking that they are receiving help from the triple jewel, okay? And they make an offering to the triple jewel. So they're stealing from the triple jewel. They're also stealing from the people who come to them for business.
Are they stealing the Dharma too?
What?
The Dharma.
Stealing the Dharma by representing it and doing the...
Yeah. We can go on forever. There's so many things wrong.
Okay.
It's such a terrible thing to do. The last thing you want to do is what they do is it's criminal. They pay, eventually. They will pay.
So where do you go to get this? That's,
You go where you know. You go where you know. What else can you do?
I don't know.
You see? You go to a church. You say, please help me with funerals. And that itself, that fact itself, that Dharma itself has some goodness in it. Because they give you a eulogy and they talk about good and that kind of thing. And they soothe your soul and make it easier for you and your family. There's some goodness in that. Okay? But that's not enough to overcome the karmic retributions. But that, again, goes back to blessings. If you haven't planted seeds of blessings in the past, you won't hear about it. You won't hear about it. Rainbow Shenhua. You won't hear about Mahayana. Leave alone talk about coming asking for help. How many of Rainbow Shenhua's disciples know that they should come to him for help? Especially that time. Because he transmitted a Dharma that's very, very effective. Not many people. Let me tell you, when I was in Canada, at Rainbow Shenhua's temple, Avatamsaka temple, every month, see, I did it grudgingly, but every month I would have people come to me and